the one thing that I have wanted to be, or I have felt like I need to be, like since I was 17, 18 as a YouTuber, and been so extremely afraid to let those words come out of my mouth.
I feel like you have this glow of hope around you right now. You got fired up enough to defend truth and hope in that moment.
Yeah. Without it, what is there?
Will I regret not doing the opposite of this later?
I say I'm free, but am I actually, or have I just created my own prison? The death of the creative.
Why do you think you had that mindset?
I have something I never brought up.
In today's episode, I sit down with Caleb Robertson, an amazing photographer, videographer, podcast host, author, father, and amazing husband. He is all of these things, and that is why today's episode is so important for you to hear. Whether you have kids, don't have kids, have a significant other, or don't, all these things factor into the output as a human that we produce. We also take a look at his output through his podcast, The Creative Audit, and also the YouTube channel that he's been building over the years. It's super important to talk about the future of these platforms, where we see it growing, where we predict that things are slowing down, and what to focus on and strategize in this new year. Take a listen. Welcome back to the Silo Podcast. I'm Austin, and I'm here with my good friend.
My name is Caleb. I am a father. I'm a brother. I'm a son. I'm this guy's best friend.
See? Hey.
No, I'm just having a good time. I'm here to have a good time.
I feel like you have a lot of wisdom.
Hey, thank you.
So we're going to dive into some wisdom today.
All right.
But first, I want to know where you're at now, because we've had you on Silo, different things. We've had you a part of our first paid event, which was Cultivate. We've had you, that goes way back, but like we've had you at a lot of things. You've been featured on Silo Stories. We had a podcast that we were both a part of. You have your own podcast. And so there's a lot going on. The relationship goes deep, but a lot of people probably don't know who you are. So let's start with who you are, and then we'll go back into our roots, and then we have a lot to talk about.
Cool, because what just came across my brain is it's a space you probably didn't think I was going to get into immediately.
This is where I threw people under the bus early in podcast episodes, so go for it.
But I will start a little bit softer.
Okay. All right, hit me with it.
Yeah, dude. In the most general, like the most broadest stroke possible, 10 years ago, I had a screen printing company who made t-shirts. Did youth events. We did sports teams, just any kind of t-shirt that needed to be made. And then I graduated college, and I was like, I don't want a t-shirt printing shop. That's not what I want my life to be. I saw shops around town. Like, I don't want to be one of those. And started making videos and kind of spun that into a career, like what has become my life. So I applied to like hundreds of jobs. I'm not exaggerating when I got my first job, and I was like, I'll do one more. And it was for an agency downtown in York called Gavin. And I was like an immediate hire. Like they brought me in, like, and that set like the trajectory for my life. I just said that, but it really did. As much as that job and the environment of working an agency job where you're just immediately faced with the death of the creative. Like that's what I felt like I was faced with. The people I met at that job have like set me up and has led to where I am now. And where I am now is I've been just making videos, graphics. I went to school for graphic design, and I've just been trying to survive. Like genuinely, that's what I've been doing for 10 years, is just trying to survive off of making stuff with my hands, with cameras. It's not even, now I enjoy it, right? But it genuinely, it's more so for the survival piece. I was trying to have my own thing. I've worked for some people, have my own thing, work for some people. Like, again, I keep saying it, but truly from a place of just trying to make money, eat food, grow a family, and not a ton of intention, just trying to keep my head above water.
Yeah. Chase some money to sustain.
Yeah, and there's dreams all along the way. Yeah. You create a new dream like almost every 6 months to a year. It's like, oh, well, now this is the thing. I'm going to do this now. Yeah. This will be how I get out of here.
Why do you think you had that mindset?
So way back when the entrepreneurial thing came about, my parents like to tell the story of when I was in kindergarten, and I would take bags of chips from the pantry like that mom would buy, and I would take them down to like lunch. We used to have lunch aides that come over from the high school, and I would sell my chips to the high school kids that would come over for like a quarter or 50 cents.
Yeah.
Like, dude, that's like
easy money. I'm gonna go buy a chocolate bar, dude.
no, for real. And then at the end of it, you're like walking away with a couple bucks.
Yeah. Woo.
And that's where they like to say there's this start of this entrepreneurial thing. For me, I think I was chasing, like I had to do it myself, not trying to get help, or if I want something, I have to be the one that brings it into existence. Like it can't be a team. I can't, chasing my freedom means these certain things, and then it leads to a life where you look at it and you're like, I say I'm free, but am I actually, or have I just created my own prison? It's like that one right there is what is what I created. We like boxes. We claim we want to be free, right? But then at the end of the day, every creative, every artist creates their own box they live in. So you just want to be the creator of the box.
Of the box, yeah. It's good to be in confines that you are able to create.
Sure.
You feel comfortable there.
Right.
But when it's imposed on you,
right,
you get to feel trapped. You get to feel rowdy, like you're trying to break out of what these things that people think you're only 1, 2, 3, but you're actually way larger. You have a different perspective than what they give you.
Right. You think so highly of yourself. And before I lose it, because you just reminded me of, it's like listen to the words that come out of my mouth. It said, my box, I, me. And it's so very self-centered. It's so very self-indulgent. And so if we're looking at now it's death to self. It's death to me. It's death to my box, my cage, my life. Like, I don't want to live in my box. My box sucks. And I don't live in someone else's box, like a human, like the confines of someone else's identity of what I should be, because then that's I can't finish that thought. But it's a whose world do you live in, and it shouldn't be yours. It should be built bigger than that. If I'm making something,
okay. Do you feel like you identify with like the starving artist then? Like, what is your relationship with that standard or myth?
I didn't think that I was, but that's what I was. I make a joke that everyone talks about, like feast or famine. I probably said this to you.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, where's this feast at? Like, because it's
you've just been waiting for it. Yeah.
For real. And I had one swell, and I'll share real details because I told you I wouldn't hold back, and we'll do real numbers because they will paint a picture of me that might not be true, but dude,
you're
done.
past the point of holding back.
I'm trying to be, but again, here I am with 5 minutes of preamble. But I had one swell of making money in this career, in video, in photo. I did 120 that year, like in self-employment, and then I had 2 jobs that took it up to like 160. Like that was what, it's all like pre-tax. And I was like, this is what the dream is. This is what the life is about. We went on a few trips. I paid off a lot of debt. Hang on, I said I would do real numbers. I paid off $45,000 of debt in that year on top of the just regular debt payments.
That's been a huge like through line in your story too. Yeah. I remember you updating like monthly,
right?
Like, hey, like I am publicly saying that like this is how much I have left. But I also don't forget that I paid off this huge like chunk already.
Yeah. If we go here, do you want to go here for a moment?
Go there.
It's kind of you're right. It is like a pillar of why I make this, why
you're so passionate about what you do now.
Right. So I probably was posting all of that while I was like feeling good about paying the debt off, because you have more money than you need to live in a month. So you are making good headway on your debt. So what ended up happening is that work kind of dried up. Contracts didn't renew. Things didn't exactly pan out. And you're sitting with, I think it was like $7,500 and not a lot of work coming in. So then you just start riding that 7,500 down. A little bit of work comes in, and eventually you get to zero. And we did. And I came to that point, and I accepted a job at an agency that I knew I didn't need. Like, just something was off, and I knew I shouldn't work there. But like, what else am I gonna do? Like, we're out. Like, we need money. So I go and do that, and we get back we get back on a turn and start saving up money again, and I couldn't exist at this agency. Like, I needed out.
Yeah.
So I left, and then it happens again. So you leave a little bit of money, and then you ride that money down to zero. And this time I didn't get a job. I so started putting it on credit cards, and I am skipping one of those. This has happened 3 times. I'm skipping over one of them just to get to the now one. In this last year, like $22,000 on credit cards to exist, to feed the family, to pay med ed, to our house takes oil. It's like $1,100 to fill the tank, credit card. And so that finally stopped like a month ago. So it's like a year and a half of riding down your nest egg, if you want to even call it that, and new expenses are showing up and new projects are showing up, but nothing ever, the what you stole, what you put on a credit card, and the new stuff never compounds big enough to start
chipping away at that. Yeah.
It's so that's where we are now.
Yeah.
Coming back out of the hole again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's that feel?
Very good.
Yeah. But I know we talked beforehand. It's like, it's going well enough that like, because of where you were feast or famine in the past, it feels like it's like, okay, what's going wrong next?
Right.
But it's
Right.
good right now, but it's
Right.
like the anxiety of like what could happen.
Yeah.
Because it's happened before.
That's what your body knows.
Yeah.
Your nervous system. There's a guy, John Deloney. Oh, my bad.
You're good.
For people listening, I pulled the table down and I nearly broke everything. His name's John Deloney, and he's a podcast that I've been listening to a lot recently. Is that
Yeah.
the guy that you've heard of? Or
I've heard of him. Yeah.
but he always says that your body remembers, and I find that to be true. And like your nervous system, here it comes again. It's happening again, and so in this new season, it's about stopping that cycle, getting control of it, renewing your mind, renewing your thoughts, thought replacement. And then the heart and the mind never wants to give itself over again to hurt and pain.
Yeah.
But it's the only option you have. Like, you have to try again. You have to give over. Let's do it one more time. And your life's going to be filled with those one more times where you trust once again, you love again, so for now, I'm at another agency, and I have to give them trust again, even though it feels so. And I have, and I truly feel like I have inside. But again, like what you're saying, your body's like waiting for them to reprimand me,
Right. But a lot has happened in that like year and a half that you were at your last agency versus where you're at now.
Yeah.
You've created a podcast, you published a book, like all of these accolades that while you still not, you think that you during that time you weren't producing financially, you were producing fruit of that kind of creation, which I think is super cool. And I want to dive into what your podcast was like as Creative Audit, and what feelings you were posting on YouTube earlier this year. You were like, hey, I have to make it for myself.
Yeah.
And doing the hard work and the grit that it takes to like build something literally from scratch.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the phrases, and remind me of what it actually sounded like, but like you've been through these cycles of not finishing projects. So you would be 25% done something, put it away, and you would look out on a field and you would have, it was like 10 houses or something that were not complete.
I mean, it's not my story, but you lay the brick of the same kind, and then that's how you build a house. You don't go all over the place. Yeah. I cut you off. Was there anything else there?
Dude, go at it.
Keep swinging.
There was 10 houses in the field, but now you were able to focus on Creative Supply. Like that was your baby.
Yeah. So I'll go back a little bit only to say that there has been one. Mom, I'm sorry, I'm joking, but like the one thing that I have wanted to be, or I have felt like I need to be, like since I was 17, 18 as a YouTuber, and been so extremely afraid to let those words come out of my mouth, which probably means exactly what I should be doing, right? Like in any of us, the thing that you are most afraid of is likely where you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to be doing. So I know that, and I have my buddy over here, you, who even your feedback is like confirmation to me that I need to keep going in that area.
Yeah. We have Chris Williams behind the camera here, and we're in like this huge group chat, 3 of us, that like we encourage each other on all of our projects and that we're doing. But on top of all of that is like you guys pursuing YouTube at like this awesome level of consistency, and Chris putting out film, photo, and video, and you getting into that creative supply kind of brand, encouraging people to create and stuff like that. Yeah,
it's just sharing my story. It's at the very least, it's self-processing. When you write a video that is for someone else's heart, it comes from yours, and it's its own journal entry. It's its own release therapy. And I just remember feeling, we're not supposed to chase feelings, what have you, but I do remember feeling good in that season when I was cranking out those videos. Also, my son was being born at the same time, so that was like
it was cool that you were doing like little diary moments though about him and like a letter to him in the future and stuff, which is sick.
Yeah, he's been. That's why I can't have a lot of from this point. I can't have a lot. I choose to not have like resentment in the past of what I didn't accomplish yet. 33 years old in like 5 days, and did think that I would have done more, right? Did think that I would have more, and I do mean money, like, and I'm not supposed to chase these things, but do life not only do I have a negative net worth, like I owe a lot of people money, and didn't think I'd be here like that. I think it's that all. Like that's just that simple. I just didn't think I'd be in this spot at this age. But what do I have? Like I wouldn't have my kids. I wouldn't have my friends. I wouldn't have, So I don't look back and regret the story, the arc. But from the place I am now, you do want to go on YouTube and you do want to share, because I'm not the only person. Dude, if I was the only person dealing with this stuff, like that'd be a very special world. And the world's special, but it's not that special. Like other people are facing things I'm facing, and I have to share those stories via YouTube, or I don't even know, man. I genuinely don't. I just know that I'm supposed to have a voice in some way. I'm trying to figure out if that's on a podcast. I'm trying to figure out, I know it's YouTube, but I'm trying to be even more confusing and step back even further into the past. I've always had my siblings tell me that I should be a comedian, and like they go, or they at the very least they could, if that's what I became, they'd be like, oh,
it makes sense.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But I know I'm not there yet, but that's interesting to me. Like I think that's a fun thing to start thinking about, or at least being able to have a stage presence and tell stories at the very least is something I want to do. And
it's just interesting that that's flipped, because a lot of creatives or camera people, at the very least photo, video, like want to be behind the camera.
Never get me in front of it.
Right. And then now in the age of social media and everything, like we are almost forced to market ourselves by being in front of the camera and having a personal brand.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what made you specifically think that YouTube was the right way to process and tell those stories?
Yeah. I don't know. It's always just been in there. Man, I can't make the analogy, but TikTok is so foreign to me. I couldn't imagine. It feels fake to me. I know people say that it's real. It's more real because it's just your phone, or there's so many things surrounding that, but something about maybe it, YouTube is still a thing for kids though, right? Like
100%.
Like 12-year-olds,
yeah,
15-year-olds, like so it would be like YouTube is so old. It's like 20 years old now.
Sure, something like that. It's like
Remember-
2006 or something.
Yeah. So it's an old platform, and it's like my first. But it was my first platform. So it's what I feel directed to, called to, because it's nostalgic in some way.
Yeah.
But then it's also that I've seen other people create their lives on there. Like I know that it can happen. I know that it's real. You do it because as much as you don't want to give them any of your AdSense or your monetary, like you don't want to give them a ton of credit, they will take your video and they'll serve it to people like you because they want people on the platform watching. So versus other platforms or other things that, like, why don't you just go down to the community center and tell your story? Like why YouTube? And I think it's because I believe that my story will be connected to the people that it's intended for on YouTube. I think that you can say so much bad things about the algorithm. I think it's built to connect it to the right people.
Yeah. It's weird because I've seen you guys this year go like really hard on it, and where I thought I couldn't serve the audiences in that way through Silo, I'm like really coming around, and this season is on YouTube.
Yeah.
As we speak, as you're watching and listening, you're probably watching on YouTube. And my goal with this season of the podcast being specifically more geared towards YouTube, because there's just some new fascination, and I don't think we're all trying to be YouTubers in that sense of like, hey guys, welcome to my channel.
What's up, everybody?
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
here today with like, dude, what are you talking about?
But to carve your own path, like everyone in the space is able to be who they are,
that's a better way.
reach their audience in that way. And I don't know, there's something that changed in my mind where I'm like, who cares what people think of me for going on YouTube? We're trying to build like a media brand, and a brand itself has to have a presence on YouTube. Or if we're trying to tell longer form stories, that needs to live somewhere that can hold longer form stories. And everything is going shorter and shorter. Yeah. YouTube remains longer. We'll at least host it in that way. And so there's just, as you can see by like what you're watching right now, if you're on YouTube, like there is intention and punctuation to the fact that like we are trying to make sure that this platform gives the creatives what they need. And you're doing that, and I'm trying to do that in these stories. And
there's never enough voices.
Right.
You will, well, it's already been said. It's already, someone else is already covering that, but not from your unique perspective. Right. And again, as unique as you are, you're not that unique, and someone else is dealing with and struggling with what you are up against, and they need you.
Yeah. And I think where we have the resources, then it's some people are not gifted in the video or photo space, which is why people who do have that and are able to tell stories, it can serve the people that can't reach that audience or tell their own story, but they can relate and be a part of that community. And I think just in general, in growing a personal brand, YouTube is very strategic. You see all of these TikTokers end up having a YouTube channel and making longer form videos, even if it's only 8 minutes or whatever, because community, there's something about YouTube, whether it's being around long enough or being like the most watched or most visited like website or something like that, that like just communities stay here, and they don't, like, you don't transfer people from YouTube somewhere else. You transfer all of these top of funnel things to maybe one of the deeper spots of YouTube where you have your community. So I think there's a lot of value there that I'm looking to serve with not only weekly podcasts, but then videos in between that connect on a deeper level of what Silo is doing. So like that's a little bit of why I'm coming around to YouTube, which is different.
This episode is sponsored by the Silo Discord. So you made it to an event, you met some friends, you got some amazing images out of it, but now you have to wait until the next one to hang out with some of your favorite people. It's not the case. Join the Discord. This is a great way to get connected with all of your friends. My favorite part has to be sitting in the voice channels while I'm editing, having people join in, ask what I'm working on, asking how their day is going, or just talking about some of the struggles we're facing. Really just builds a deeper bond with a lot of these community members. With that comes different channels to talk about gear, poetry, memes, food, anything in between. Image critique, where we can come together and give positive feedback on images, making all of our skills sharper. So if you're not already a part, click the link in the description and join the Discord. It's an amazing spot to be.
For me, with YouTube, it led to the podcast because I thought that was a place to have a relationship in my conversations. I was staring at a camera and writing these scripts, but it was all solo. It was all siloed to myself.
Hey, yo, what?
So a podcast is the space where you can start to have that conversation and lean in a deeper way with someone to truly understand what was going on in their life. If you've never watched an episode of my podcast, sweet, because this will be the first.
Let's get more people to listen to your podcast because it's actually so good.
Well, thank you. It's not even remotely close to the content. Is not remotely close to what I set out. My initial thing and why it's called Creative Audit is because I wanted to look at people, because I felt alone in my struggle of understanding how to run a business, how much money do you need to make each year, what do you pay your contractors, how do you actually make life work. I need to make up a scenario in my head so I'm not outing anybody without their permission. But if you're a photographer but you actually work at Denny's and nobody knows, but you keep it a secret, like I want to know that. Like people need to know that. We need to understand how you actually exist, like how you make it work. Because Instagram, at least, and then even on YouTube, like wherever you express yourself, we don't share those stories because we're ashamed of them, or we don't want that to be our life, or that's my job, and then we compartmentalize this as my art, and that's fine. I'm not requesting that people change the way they must express their Denny's career in their artwork.
Right.
But at the very least, we don't need to have shame about it, and we just need to express that so people coming up behind us can have the best framework to actually, like a playbook to see what reality actually is, what it looks like up here. It's not actually what you think it is, and you need to do these 3 jobs to have this kind of art career. Or, dude, I don't make any money from this. I live in my mom's basement. My dad actually still pays my water bill, like whatever the thing is. And that's actually why I started the podcast. And I've actually asked very few of those questions to people that have come on. And probably some of that is my confidence or my ability to want to be bold with them. And maybe even my studio, which we can get into like how I built that. But potentially that studio even is cultivating a different kind of conversation than the one I set out to have.
Huh.
Does that make
It's
sense?
interesting, the environment that could be.
Oh, majorly. Like even this, like I don't have a couch. I have a table, and we sit like right across from each other. And like even in this setting, I'm already feeling more comfortable to have that. It's a couch.
Yeah. Less of an interview with
Right.
lights beaming on you, and
Right.
more of a hangout with a big light on you.
Hey, that's all right. That's like a big window.
It is a big window.
Yeah.
Where does the podcast fit into your general like framework for what that business Creative Supply was going to be? Because people want to know what
Sure.
slices of the pie that is.
Yeah. To me,
Not even financially, by the way.
yeah. Good, because it doesn't make any money.
Same
and you know
here.
that. You know that. It's because it's an expression of yourself. It's a painting. It's an artwork. It's the same thing as anyone's craft. I thought and still think that podcast is the space where like these creative tools can be practiced. So the book that you mentioned, it has a bunch of drawing exercises in it and things to help renew your mind, help you see that drawing, being using a pencil, using a pen to paper, regardless of what it looks like of how well something's rendered. If it looks like reality, well, I wanted to draw this, my brain saw this, but my hand, like, does not matter if that connection doesn't exist between your brain and your hand and the sheet of the pencil and the sheet of paper. What matters is that you're in motion doing those things, and that will lead to being more creative. It's so elementary.
So the people want to know, like, what piece of the pie or what's the purpose of the podcast in the general, like, creative supply business model, like the thing that was propelling you forward, that could lift you out of where you are if you built this brand.
Yeah.
What purpose did the podcast provide?
It's the engine. It's what would get you the audience.
Yeah.
I have ideas for products and ideas of ways to help. I have a book that I think has sold. I don't even estimate, because it would potentially bring me shame to know how many copies of the book haven't sold. Right. But it's like, oh my gosh, he has a book, but it's really not. It's not widely known. It's not widely advertised. But there's ideas and there's things that I want to do that the podcast would generate the audience to be able to serve and help. So it's all about serving up front, making content, making things that are helpful, making things that are funny to watch, just building an audience. And then you take the audience and you find ways that they need more help and ways that you can serve them. Because I presently have ideas about things that I think would help creatives, but I don't actually know. So the podcast would, if you have one podcast a week, that's 52 conversations. It's over, it's hundreds of hours of time learning actually what people need.
Yeah.
And then you would go off and serve and find the products, find the things you need to make to then make your living.
That's a great way to think about it. Like those 52 conversations actually feed into what you do to serve the wider audience.
Yeah. It's your my gosh, words are escaping me right now, but the
top of the funnel that gets the market research.
Yeah.
And then boom, then you have the ideas that then you can serve that pain point of someone, and then have that conversation be a YouTube video that makes sense to this section of people.
Right. And it can be all mastermindy like that. And all, hoo, and someone better than me who's more marketing than me can help me do that. But for me, I just would want to become aware. And then, dude, I've kind of am zooming. Like those are all really cool thoughts to have and like dream about on a whiteboard and go nuts with. But now I'm just like, let's have conversations, because now I don't need it. There's no force that makes that podcast need to make money for me. It doesn't need to grow at a certain rate. I don't have any of those pressures. So it can be authentic, which is something a lot of my work hasn't had the opportunity to be, because it's had to be forced to make money. So now, that's what, so if you're asking like what engine it is now it's like a sandbox for me now. Yeah.
It's a passion project that you can do whatever you want. There's less, even that it wasn't a public company that had investors that were like guiding you.
Right.
It is now a private, like, I will do what is necessary to fuel what I'm wanting to do with it.
Yeah, I have a couple episodes in the bank. A couple have come out, and the ones that have come out are not, none of those were even done, finished, polished, ready. They don't have intro music. They don't have any of these things that would, like, these signs of a completed podcast that I just release. Like, get to 60%, get to 70%, release the thing, and move on. And that's the mindset. Like, if I genuinely believe, and I do, that it'll take me 3 years to build this, why am I so worried about what October 15th podcast is? No, like, you have to make sure you release it, but then you need to move on and just keep cranking in that way.
Yeah. It's the consistency. I know that's been something and a word in your life that you've had going for a while. What does that mean to you?
Yeah. It's hard to be it.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the least things that I am, is consistent, right? Wouldn't you? I don't know.
I mean, I agree with your statement of seeing like 10 unbuilt houses, but I have fully believed and sewn into what Creative Supply is and will be, and what it is currently.
Yeah. It's the most, it's the house that looks the most complete.
Yeah.
Even if, to me at least.
Which is awesome. Yeah. I'm really proud of you in that way. And I know also to push you further with it, that like, this is not something that you should abandon because funds dried up for it or whatever that looks like. It's like, no, this is the one. Like, let's keep you on the track towards what a finished house would look like in that way.
Yeah, and I'm glad that it gets to be that. I should actually back up again.
Keep backing up, back it up.
That's what. Hey, I'd start at the beginning, but I need to go further back.
Yeah. Keep it going.
So the podcast was launched actually, and I feel like I need to mention this. It's part of my contract when I got the money. I think like the podcast, I got a $2,000 grant from Cultural Alliance. Correct?
Yeah.
That helped me buy equipment. Otherwise, I wouldn't have the lights you see, the ATEM switcher. I think that's what I bought: lights, a switcher, podcast mics. I wouldn't have those things without the help of my city, or the state, or wherever that money comes from.
I don't know. Wherever, but yeah, I mean, we've everyone in this room, including like Chris, has gotten what like the benefits of what society sees as important, and I don't want those grants and those like ways to actually fund creatives to go away.
Yeah.
So it's important for people to actually know that you can sign up for that, and then it gets dispersed quarterly, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's still a thing now. If you're listening to this, you still can go apply and find a way in.
Yeah, culturalyork.org, I think it is, and it's under like the artist accelerator.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
accelerator. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's true. Like, please do it, because the money is there and it needs to be in your pockets. And I think that really does accelerate where you could be. And I mean, it's proven by the way that you've used it. Yeah. I've used it for like backend, like storage for all the silo projects that we do and all of that stuff. And it just truly makes a difference. And that's because of community.
Yeah, dude.
Boom. Wow, you probably never heard that word in any of the other podcasts that I've done so far.
No. Yeah. That's good, man. You're out here. I feel like you're out here actually doing the Lord's work. Like you're genuinely, because you can't escape. The projects and the things that I've brought 25% or anything or 199% and walked away from. I didn't walk away from 2,500 people, and that's what you're up against. Is if I stop, I let these people down, air quotes, or and I think not a single person would ever tell you that you've let them down, and if you stopped, that would be the beginning of you letting them down. But you have the world, you have physical, you have real community, real eyeballs on what you make, where a lot of mine is maybe 12 people know that I'm moving in this direction, and now I've stopped, and then I moved in this direction, and now I've stopped, and it's my close people that know, but it's not 2,500 people don't know which way I'm moving and then stop moving.
Now they do, because you're here.
Shoot.
Just kidding. I don't have that many people listening to the pod.
Yeah.
But still, like, it is important. I think part of what it takes to be a creative nowadays, whether you like it or not, in advertising or not, is like sharing your story. And one of the things that I really appreciate and value about you is that you are willing, one, to share the hard parts of your story, but then also take the risk and share your story, because that's a lot of people are conservative with their story, keeping it in, saying, I'm just a photographer, here's my services, and not giving them why and how and when and all this stuff that, like, it takes courage to be able to bring those out into the world, which is just, I love that you like are willing and can articulate it well, what you're going through, what you have been through, where you want to go. Yeah.
I see no other move forward. Like, in my mind, lies don't exist. Like, you can't lie. Like, truth, because truth is real and truth always comes out, and it always reveals itself. It always finds a way to be known. You can lie, sure, maybe for a couple of decades if you want to bury that deep enough and deal with the cancer that will grow in your body and just the way you feel, and you look backwards in the relationships that are just torn up and like, so you can lie, but they're not, lies aren't real. Like, lies, what did I say? Lies don't exist.
Yeah.
Because truth, eventually comes out.
Truth will show itself eventually.
Right. And so to me, we can be, he's so transparent. It's like, what? Eventually you will be too. You'll find yourself in a spot where you're going to have to tell somebody, like you're going to get to a point where you just can't live with it anymore, and you're eventually going to be transparent, and you're eventually going to wish you would have done this earlier, or wish you would have. You get to the end. I don't want to make it about this. I really don't. But it's a cliche thing. If you get to the end of your life, and what are you gonna like? People always say that old people, the olds,
the elders,
they don't have a filter anymore. It's like, well, just move that filter a couple of decades sooner and live. There's so many areas that I'm not currently living my life, but live your life. Just turn it on sooner. Turn the filter off.
Well, that's good.
Sooner.
Like, yeah, live your life sooner.
Yeah.
Whoa. Wow. I don't even know where to go with that, but like, that is a sentence.
We're trying. All of us are trying in our own way, and not like we're excelling in certain ways, and then also not in many others. So that statement might make you think, he must have something figured out. There's a lot I don't have figured out. Like there's a lot you never will, but it's just, I've heard people say that, and my brain's getting all over the place with that, with you saying about vulnerability, because I don't even view it as that. I just view it as that's just what you.
Right.
What do you mean you don't tell someone the way that you're feeling? What do you mean you don't share the exact thought you're having? What do you mean?
Right.
Like, yeah.
I think that's how you grow depth with people. I think without you opening up that early to me about like what you're going through and the dreams that you have, me as an introvert wouldn't have been able to open up as quick to you. So that's an immediate like icebreaker, or just way that like brings down all barriers that like would stop us from, we're not going to talk about our salaries because my boss says I shouldn't and your boss says you shouldn't. And now we're just like awkwardly standing next to each other. I don't know. I think there's something to just like that transparency that matters. And I'm still grappling with what you said, by the way. I'm going to think about that for a long time.
Yeah. I mean,
but it's just like questioning everything that you do in a way that's like, will I regret not doing the opposite of this later?
I like that.
Right? It's like, okay, I'm shy right now. I'm a shy person. I'm an introvert. And a reel that I just put out that resonated with a few people was like, if I'm going to have to grapple with this later in life, why not do that now and reap the benefits of the 30 years of living in what I'm supposed to be doing now, instead of figuring out when I'm 50 and only having X amount of years to live in the relief or less stress because of it.
The best case scenario is that the time will pass. You're going to live those years anyways. This is not new advice. This is not new. It's not mind-blowing things here. Like, best case scenario, you live and you have that time and you have a choice in that time. And I know as good as anybody, like just mentally what can happen sometimes and how lost you can get and feel. And this brings up two places that, well, I'll name them, bring them out of my head so I'm stop being confusing in the podcast. But just being lost and so finding a vice, and then having a job and thinking that that a job is a failure, or as an artist that your 9 to 5 or your agency job makes you a failure, when if it's a great place to work, and if it gives you clarity, if it gives you income and lets you go do, like actually go make your art, then well, that's the thing that that's actually an assistant to your craft, your art, or your thing you're supposed to create in the world, because it's freeing you up of the financial burden, so then your art can actually be like a full expression and not altered by what you think will sell or what you think someone will buy.
That's what you're going through right now with now getting back into an agency where then your podcast can be as free as you want it to.
Right. Yeah, I guess we kind of already covered that.
No, but that's like the equivalent of I feel like you have this glow of hope around you right now. And that's probably because your creativity is being used at your job, for sure. But like your free time creativity is like way still alive now. And it's not bought by investors above.
Yeah. And coming out in ways before we recorded, we're talking about I have souped up Power Wheels for my kids and we're going to make a track around the house. Like that's what I want to be involved in.
Oh yeah.
Like that's what I want to be. If you're asking me like, what would you do if you didn't have to make money? That right there. And then making stories around that and sharing that experience is downstream of that. But the action is, like we had a place. One of the first things I ever did at our first property we rented had a hillside back into the woods, and we built like a snow tubing trails. And I remember that being as one of the most creative things, or compelling, or like most heartfelt things I've ever done. And I did that while I had a job. And I look at what were those things that you did while you didn't have a job. What were those things? And I don't have very many of those stories. Like a lot of my creativity came when I was working, when I had a job, because you had the freedom then. You were the burden of trying to make our student loans started off at $2,600 a month is what we owed in student loans, and then stack everything else on top of that. And when that burden of having to come up with that through your craft is gone, like I've just, in this moment now, I'm looking back going, actually that was when I was most creative, when I had a job.
Yeah. Speak to someone who is at a full-time job but wants to make the jump to full-time creative. Is there like
I've been
that?
there twice.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's tension in every jump that you take there, but how do you see the path forward if your intentions is to move forward as a full-time?
Yeah. I will speak to the earlier me, because there's so many of us aren't understood when we go to our confidants, we go to our friends, we go to our parents, people who we think have our best interest in heart, and we complain about our job. And then the feedback we get is, yeah, jobs suck. Like, it's what it is. Sucks to suck.
Right.
Like, and you're like, no, this is different. Like, I'm being belittled. I'm not being listened to. And we list all of these things that adults tell us to. Adults, I guess I am one now.
You're very much an adult.
They tell us to suck it up. They tell us to deal with it. Like, do you know what I've been through? And it's like very true, like real. Like you walked through a literal draft where like if your number got pulled, you were going, you're being enlisted. That's actual pain. Like that's real. And we don't have that. We're not experiencing that, but we still need to be heard and understood that when something is different, like the job I have now, it's not perfect. There are things that make it not my exact reality, but shoot, I'm having new ideas. Dang it.
Oh, the mind's expanding.
Oh no. Because at the time of complaining about these jobs, actually, if I'm to look back now, I think actually was kind of being a little self-centered, only in the way of I was deriving my identity from the job. And like, because it's all that I had. It's all outside of the one-off creative projects I was doing. That job kind of was the defining thing of your life. And when it's the defining thing of your life and it's not perfect or it's not what you want, it can create a lot of tension.
Isn't that interesting that we define our lives around our professions that might not even be what we want, but we just need out of necessity?
That's what you tell people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Jacob's, he's over here doing this. And it's a thing that your mother-in-law or parents, they talk about. It's that little nugget they want to feed to their friends, because it's hard to feed your actual thing, the thing you really care about. So to reorient to that person that wants out, I think is what you asked me, and then I blabbered on for.
Nah, dude, this is what the pod's about.
So it's like a reality check, like truly check. Am I actually? Are these workplace? There's like go to YouTube and find people who like really talk about like toxic workplaces. Like, am I actually in one of those? And if you really are, like if you actually are living in hell, like you're living in a place that is like deteriorating your mental health, your physical health, like all these things, then you got to look for the emergency door. I have done that. I think I've left 2 places, but I've done the emergency door once. And I had no idea where I was going to go afterwards. I went to FedEx. I went to Lowe's. I filmed youth sports, like on scaffolding. Like,
Yeah.
like, and now they have like motorized cameras that'll do it for you.
Little PTZ guys.
Right.
Yeah.
But before that, it was me.
Yeah.
And for like 2.5 hours, you would just move the camera. And that was one of the most joyful times of my life. Like, we were about to have our first kid, and I felt free from my job. Because I really was under it at that job. And I finally felt free. So sometimes you do have to like pull the cord and like jet out and just land. Like, you will land, maybe you don't know where, but I think a lot of people tell you to get a plan. And for the person who can wait, if you don't have to pull that latch, believe that you want out so deeply that you store up as much cash as you possibly can, like, to get yourself some kind of runway. If you can't, if that thing isn't finding a job, it's storing up cash, but it's taking the fact that you want out, like, take that really seriously and keep money, look for jobs, and be willing to do something way beneath you. I don't believe in a beneath you thing, but something that is, if you had to go to college for the job you have now, be prepared to go sweep a floor that you don't need to go to college for. You'll learn so much at that job, and it'll give you a lot of time. And maybe it'll potentially do for you what it did for me. It gave me a lot of my free time back, where you could actually clock out. Like, when it comes to 5 and your shift's over, it's over. You leave Panera at Panera.
Yeah.
Like,
you can compartmentalize like actual grit work versus potentially what you want to do with your rest of your life.
Yeah. So if that's an answer, that's what I would say.
Yeah. Huh. That's good. What would you say to someone that's just coming like out of high school?
Ooh.
That's different. It's like, can I create for my first job?
Sure.
Right out of college, is that possible? Or what should I build during college years if I were to be going for whatever, youth sport management? I don't know, whatever. Like, what would the plan be? 3 or 5 steps during those 4 years that would build you to a place where you could create for the rest of your life for a job?
You need an audience. You need to share your story. You need to create value, right? That's the basic. Do you need an audience to have a valuable product? No. You can tie a valuable product with good marketing, and you can do that without an audience. Like, we've all been spammed with things from people we have no idea who the heck they are, but because the marketing's good and because the ad spend's there. But the root of it is create something valuable, be a valuable person, have valuable assets, That's what it.
Yeah. So how do you do that as a college student?
Dang it.
Oh, you thought you were getting away. No, we need more steps. Austin demands it.
I think it's a cheap answer, but the simplest thing I can think about is filming yourself. We live in a content creator economy. We live in this world where you can flip a camera around and tell a story and add value. I think if I look backwards, it's the one thing I wish I would have done along the way is film myself more, film more.
But Caleb, I'm a college student. What do I have to add to the world?
Oh, dang, everything. You only have things to add to the world. If that wasn't true, you wouldn't be here. Like, I once yelled at my coworkers. I was very up against it, and I really was. And they were heading down the path where your question leads, which is, what does any of this matter? Like, why am I even here? Why am I even making?
There is hope.
Yeah.
There is hope. No matter what they were going through, you got fired up enough to defend truth and hope in that moment.
Yeah. Without it, what is there? Like, why open your eyes in the morning? Why do anything? Like, hope has to exist.
Okay, so it sounds like, we'll stop you there. It sounds like you just got so fired up because you believe in defending hope and like the truth of it all. And like, that's what compelled you to stand up for that and
Yeah.
like get passionate. And I saw you were like, yes, no, I stand behind this.
Yeah.
Because hope is in the world.
Absolutely. That's like the bread of it's what life is built up. It's why we're in this room. It's why any of us wake up with in a good attitude or even want to pursue something better, is because hope is real. It has to be.
Yeah.
Like, what other case scenario do we have? Because without hope, what would you do? Like genuinely, without hope, there's only disparity. There's only bad thoughts. There's only questioning what to do with existence. But with hope comes everything. It's down. It's the beginning of everything.
I think that's what fuels a lot. We can take any answer that a creative would give on like, why do you do what you do? I think there is always a trail back to hope. It's at least seeing the good in people, whether it's a bad news story or you're telling a story about a founder or of this couple or whatever it looks like. It's like you're doing this because you want the good in that story or the bad to surface so that we can replace it with good, or for good to be spread or anything like that. And I think it boils down to hope at the end and like like spreading truths, and all that encompasses.
Yeah, dude, it does. If this feels like the end-ish, I have something I never brought up at the very beginning.
Do it.
Let's
my
backtrack
mind, again.
Capstone.
Yeah.
Or bookend. It's the story that I feel like I said to Chris once. I probably haven't you yet, but it's this tension of what's your next YouTube video? Like if you've been off, or if you haven't done something, or you've been going through something, what do you owe?
Ooh. Okay. Go off.
So
that's so good. Okay. I'm writing this down on top of whatever that other sentence was earlier that I'm gonna have to listen to again.
Perfect. So, for me, you started off this conversation by introducing how I was involved like 3 years ago, at the we didn't have a conference, but it was workshops. I would say
workshop is a great way to describe Cultivate.
So at that event, I wasn't drunk, but I had drank before coming because there was so much noise in my head, and that whole season was filled with this is just what people do. This is how people cope with stress. This is what guys do. You turn a football game on and you have a few beers. It's like, well, you had more than a few, Caleb, and you did it like every day, and you did it to escape something, and you eventually started looking forward to that moment every day, that being the thing that you were excited about, or just started to control. And I think a lot of us are misunderstanding our relationship with alcohol, or misunderstanding our relationship with any substance. We're not giving proper, we're not understanding it properly, where we think we're in control, but it's so deep in our lives, and we're not understanding what it's keeping us from, or what we're hiding by doing it. And you asked me, and the reason why I bring that up is because you asked me like where I've been and where I am, and that's where I was, and that was that season of when I was self-employed and scared and tired and new kid. We had a kid. We lost some babies. Like there's a season, like a hard time, and no rule book, no playbook, and so you choose to cope in some ways. You choose to hide, and that's how I chose to hide. And as I don't want this to be a sobriety thing, because I genuinely believe in a healthy relationship with anything, most things. I don't think people are alcoholics. I think people cope. I think people, this is dangerous territory, but like calling someone an alcoholic, or calling them, saying they have an issue and a problem, when truthfully, people will search for anything to hide behind, anything to cope with. So if I got rid of alcohol in my life, I would still go try to find something to hide with, because it's not about the alcohol. It's not about the thing. It's you're hiding. It's what you're keeping. It's what you're not dealing with. But for the sake of someone who is genuinely struggling, it's worth sharing that was me. And now, like, it was like a year and 6 months, wasn't that long, but a year and 3 months. And I had wine with my wife like 2 weeks ago, just for our celebrate like a 8-year anniversary. And like it didn't trigger anything. It didn't reset anything. It didn't set me off. It basically like a year, I'll call it a year and 3 months off, like, or away from hiding alcohol. And that season, that time brought up a lot of these undealt with thoughts, because you're either masking by being busy and then masking with alcohol. And then now it's all out. And now you have to face it, and I have to deal with it.
Right.
And that was a very hard time.
Yeah.
Very hard season. And now I just feel like I'm rounding some corner where it'll be like alcohol will be introduced back into my life, but probably, like, if I had to estimate or give myself a limit, I would say I'll probably have 2 drinks in a year's time, and they'll probably they both will be with my wife, and we'll be out at a dinner, and it'll be us two. It will not be in front of my kids. It will not be in all the ways that I was doing it before. It will be intentional, and it likely won't even be 2. Like, I didn't even truly fully enjoy the experience when I did choose to drink one with her, because, like, why am I doing this? Like, what is the point?
What is it doing?
Yeah,
like, for me?
Right.
Yeah.
I think some of that is because I'm still working through the things in my head. But all of that to say that the last couple of years have been self-growth, and friends like you, family, have all been dogs enough to hang with me and see me through it, because as big as my ideas might be, and that's why you think it's fun to talk to me, or you root for me. What have I produced? What have I made? It's not a lot, right? Like, I think that's fair. Like, I'm not beating myself up by saying that. Like,
I mean, I don't think I can say that that's true. And that is me fighting against the limiting belief that you have, that you haven't made a lot, because you have made a lot. You've made a lot for other people. You've made a lot that I don't know about. You've made a lot that I know about. So, like, to say you haven't made a lot over years isn't true.
Sure.
And I will even say you've made a lot of progress, not alone
right.
the creative aspect.
Yeah, that's it, man. It's progress. I've made progress, and you can be sad about where you are, and you thought you'd be somewhere else. But at the end of the day, each of us walk through our own little stories, our own little journey. We're set up. We all don't start on the same, like, starting line, and that's you accept that, and
it's about where you finish. But I can't get over the fact of, like, we should have ended the podcast right there, but this is selfishly, I'm going to keep going because I kind of want to explore, or at least emphasize this to our listeners, that, like, listen, like, what are you hiding behind? Because what is that excuse that you give every time you do something bad, or you mess up, or blah, blah, blah? Are you, hey, I'm really tired today. Sorry, I didn't do my best at this gig. Like, any one of those things. That's, like, something I can think of as a creative. I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't get enough sleep last night. And, like, is that something you're hiding behind? Like, being tired all the time, and then using that as an excuse when you are, like, doing okay, but, like, did a bad job.
Sure.
And that becomes something that, like, is just in front of you and, like, precedes you for every conversation and every job that you do in the future.
Yeah.
I think that's something that, like, asking yourself, what am I hiding behind? Yeah. Is there something that's stopping me from sharing my story in the fullest of way?
Yeah, there's a note card in this bag called Deep Questions for the podcast, and down in that bag is a note card that says, "What part of yourself do you hide? What part of yourself are you hiding?" And it's a great question to ask yourself. And if you have an answer, can we grill each other?
Ooh, let's do it.
What
part am I hiding?
What part of yourself? Yeah, I think it's ordered that way. What part of yourself do you hide?
Yeah, my six pack is what Chris said behind camera. Believe
Come
me,
on.
I don't have that. But I love that we're bringing creative audit into this podcast. It's sick. This is also me stalling to figure that out. Part of me, man, that's such a good, deep question that needs to be asked to more people. And as I talk, I'm not going to be able to talk and figure it out at the same time.
That's fine. That's fair.
We're going to cut right here.
Yo, enjoying this episode? Please consider subscribing on YouTube or leaving a 5-star rating on Spotify or wherever you're getting your podcast. It really does help push out to more people, and we need more eyes on these amazing creatives that we are highlighting in this season of the Silo podcast. So if you wouldn't mind, leave a 5-star review on those platforms and a comment down below. Now let's get back into the episode.
All right, we're back. I had to think about that for a little bit.
2 hours later.
Yeah, actually, it's just gonna be the SpongeBob like transition.
Yeah.
I think the part that like scares me the most about showing people, and I think it's the complete opposite of what I share, which is probably why it's hidden, is like the controlling aspects of me, the parts of me that like, in the same way, creativity, like, you work on a project, it's yours. You don't want people to like really mess with it if it's like your video project. No, I don't use these transitions. It makes it look worse. Sure. I think there's parts of me that's like, I need to let go of firmly grasping so many aspects of like finances, thinking too much about, I think too much about conversations I have, and that makes me someone
like after they've happened.
Even before, actually, I think I'm like going into conversations, over analyzing who I am. Honestly, I think so many times in situations. Welcome to therapy, by the way. Too many times. I think too many times in conversations, I'm like, okay, I'm comparing myself to who I'm talking to, and I immediately assume the role of like, oh, I'm less than you immediately.
Like to be around
oh,
this guy.
You are senior to me in so many other ways. I'm talking to top dog designer in Lancaster, and I don't even think of him as a human. I'm like, no, I'm looking up to you as a hero. And so I'm like, okay, well, they don't care what I have to say. And I think I don't know if that falls into controlling, but there's an aspect of like, maybe that goes into comparison, but then also control of just too many things that I hold too tightly to that I should care less about. And I think that it's in like my personal life and how I run the house. Like, sure. I'm like a clean freak, and I need to let go of that in some ways. Confessions on the pod, Katie, you heard it first. You already know, but like I reset the house like daily, and I'm like, you know, you always have those people that are like, I make my bed every day. Sure. And that gives me a sense of control like, that I might not have normally.
I scrub the carpets.
Yeah, I'm down in there with a comb, getting all the hair out. No. But like, I don't know. There's just some like obsessive compulsive like reset that I need to do. And like that plays into why I think environments are so important. And so I'm not like a crazy cleaner, I promise. But there are like aspects where I'm like, no, like I want things to be a certain way.
Yeah.
And I need that for myself. And because I'm able to control that in my personal life, I'm able to like let loose a little bit more in the public facing life in quotes there.
Yeah. Cause we're not all like in your home, but
right.
Where it might be.
But I think there's different aspects where like you grab deeper onto or harder onto things in certain areas of your lives. And then like, because of how tight I grip like my home life with like the cleanliness or whatever, I'm able to, I don't know. I think there's a trade-off there.
Yeah.
What would you say yours is?
Shoot, we can't like go over yours for like a little bit.
Oh, we can. No, sorry. I did say, but in the time that I was thinking, you could go deeper if you want, if there's things to explore.
No, I think you said a few things, and the one I wanted to
dissect it, please.
To just give encouragement on is that, well, this is a stupid way to say it. There's more clever ways, but we all put our pants on one leg at a time, right? So even these people who are heroes, or because of their identity online, like you're in the room and maybe you think you're less than, but people think, they say, to imagine people naked, like just to level everybody out, like we've all, but mostly I don't want to challenge you because I don't know. Like, there's so many things I don't know that it's not advice, but
Give it to
I'm
me. Give
viewing-
it to me, and whoever audience members also think that they're controlling and less than.
I'm viewing myself in your seat. That's who I'm talking to, who I'm responding to. So if things are not for you, then like I'm still trying to figure out this discernment thing and why certain thoughts come in, and if that's just my brain or truly a like divine thought, what have you. So you submit to like, I submit to that person's authority in the room when ultimately that's my brother, that's my sister, and there's a higher authority that we both submit to, we both have to answer to, and we both ultimately have, we both interact with God in the same way. There's no, they're better off than I am. We are all scrubs, we're all filthy rags, and we're better than that too. But like we're sheep. I'll go that way. Like we're all the same. We're same. Like if you squint, we're the same. Like you might be a little bit taller. Like they're fuzzy. When you look at them, like they're a little bit taller than me, and they're wearing different clothes than I am. But they're all the same. Like it's mushy. We're all no better or no different than anyone. And I think you're going through your own struggles, like myself included, has actually like, genuinely helped with that, like immensely. Like actually having seasons of struggling has shown me that whether or not someone's currently expressing it, they've been there. And something about that, when you enter the room with them, just kind of is like leveling. Like we all have struggle, might not be right now, and they might be killing right now, and I'm not. But I know that they will soon be struggling, or they have. And something about that, like, just
it's good.
Turns all the heat the same temperature. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Woo. All right, let's dig into your business now.
I'm a Trump supporter.
Oh no! Here we go. Politics is on the podcast.
See, this is actually a red hat. No.
Turns it inside out.
No, so I actually have a red hat that has words on it that don't say "Make America Great Again," but it does have white letters on it, and I wore it out in public once. I got eyeballs.
Oh, you definitely did.
And it was a hat. Well, I'll say that maybe that's the punchline. I say that at the end, but it was at a place. What can I say about this story? The hat said B team. That's what like the phrase on it. White letters, red hat, B team. And this guy like came up to me and said, what's that hat mean? What's that hat mean to you? I was like, oh, well, so actually it's like this organization in Texas where they help kids with Down syndrome. Like they actually lean into the idea of like the B team, like they wear it as like a badge of honor. He's like, oh yeah, sure. I'm like I'm walking away. I'm like, and I'm trying, like, I didn't even, like, my first thought was not MAGA, red hat, make America great again. It was like, what is he talking about? This red hat. And like, I think, like, all I can think is like, there's some political statement there that I didn't get, or like he was thinking I was calling the Republicans the B team. I have no clue. But the point is, since that red hat story, I no longer wear that red hat in public anymore because I don't, even if that's the way that somebody votes, it's the identity that comes along with that you don't necessarily want to be wrapped up in or expressed by or summarized, like so quickly take a picture and be summarized by that one identity, that one thing. I will say that there's not a specific part of me that I hide, but I compartmentalize who and what I share things to. So I've always called them governors. So there are like people there's a governor typically in my mind that is like, that's not God. That's some human form. It's usually a person or like a group of people that dictate my like full expression of speech or full thoughts in something. So there are people in my family now that I would I would say are on that council of the governors in my mind that I'm not fully myself, not fully my thoughts to them, because I desire a relationship with them. Is what I claim. This is the wholesome claim, but I don't think it's real. I claim that I want a relationship with them, so I'll withhold my full self. Because if they knew my full self, then they would reject me and we wouldn't have a relationship at all. And that's an awful way to live, right?
Yeah.
And then so here's what's great. What if that's true? That's a great way to live. like even if it's true that relationship's gone, I didn't make it gone. I was myself, and you chose that you didn't want to be around myself. I didn't make that choice. I never told you to go away. I never said I didn't want you in my life. You just finally learned who I was, and you left.
That's only, yeah.
So I hide elements of myself in my brain. My brain pitches it to myself as a good thing because I'm doing it for the sake of a relationship. But is that real? Is that something you should do? Is mask?
Yeah, for the sake of a relationship too. Yeah. Something to ponder. Something to truly ponder.
So there's the answer to the...
Caleb, what does it mean to create to you? Like, what is the word create?
Shoot. It's kind of like a curse. I think.
Talk to me about that.
It's a great question, Austin, because I don't know how to exactly answer it because I'm thinking about like creating is the only thing you can do. You create waves in your speech. You're always moving around and creating something. Your existence is a creation, and it's the only thing, the only choice. Actually, not even a choice. You will create something between now and forever. You will generate for good or bad, for better or worse, a something, a movement. You'll deteriorate relationships. You'll build relationships. Something will happen. Will be created. So it's almost not even a choice that you get to make, in a sense of what will you create. Like, it's stop asking even the question of what will you create. It's what am I creating? Because you currently are, even if you don't think you are. You're not an artist. You're not a creative. That's not my thing. Not true. Because like even on the way home here, I'm going to create chaos on the roads, or I'm going to create peace in the way that I drive home. I'm going to the butterfly effect. I'm going to run a yellow light that could be a red light, and then I trigger this whole like side thing that an accident happens 2 lights down because of my, like that's this is the way my brain thinks.
Yeah.
I go a little weird and go into stretches at different times, but you will make, and creation is a default, and you get a choice. You get to show up to your life and choose what that creation will be. And if you don't, it'll happen on its own, and it probably won't be what you want.
Caleb, thanks for being on the podcast, man. I really appreciate it. Like, just diving that deep with you means the world that we were able to do this. And I think this is a culmination and a continuation of every conversation that we've had before, and will come in the future. So,
well, I appreciate you for allowing me to sprint off into the recesses and the valleys of my brain at certain times and not looking at me like I'm crazy in the process.
Never crazy, Caleb. I love hearing your stories. Thanks. All right, see you, bro.